A lot of times I'll do that after I've done like 10 minutes because I get too tired.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, also you're far more experienced with particularly everywhere but legs than I am. I need something to get my like I need something to get my brain back into that mode because yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I need.
Try it because you like the outdoors. It's not hard on your body. It's body weight. You actually work up a good sweat. You get to go outside. It's pretty nice. I like doing it.
Sweet. I'll let you know how it goes.
I'll do it with you and I'll let you know the same.
Oh yeah, man. Then we'll crush a 4 logo. Hey, good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic NFL Showdown Strategy Show. We got a hell of a game today. Packers, Lions to kick off week 14 on Thursday Night Football. 3.5 point spread, 51.5 point total. Yeah, I mean, it's just really all you could ask for in a spot like this. A 10-1 team against are they 11-1 now? They might be 11-1. 11-1 team, yeah. Versus a 9-3 team. The only game the Packers have lost over the last 7 weeks or 8 weeks has been to this Lions team. And the Lions are dealing with, I'm sure Matt will dig into this a lot of injuries. I mean, they have so many guys on the D-line hurt. Linebackers, they already lost Hutchinson and Zalone, but now even more. So Matt, I'm happy to be here with you, brother. This is an interesting one to see how this defense holds up against the Packers team, by the way. They just want to run the football as much as they can this year.
Yeah, both teams want to do that. There's a lot of injuries on the Packers side too. Their defense definitely not as talented as the Lions just straight up to begin the season. And they've also lost some players like their best player, Jair Alexander. I mean, this guy just can't get on the field no matter what. Pretty sad to see him waste his prime away in the training room. But if you're a casual who only likes scoring, this is your game, total above 50 points. There should be little resistance from both defenses on both sides of this game.
You think so?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. The Lions have some players that are actually getting snaps that I've never heard of.
I know. Look, Dan Campbell, if there's anyone that can get his guys going, it's clearly Dan Campbell. But at a point, you reach a point eventually where there's just not enough talent. And they figured out ways to win. Like, I think you would agree with me, right? We can't take anything away from this Lions team. Despite the injuries, they've continued to win football games, even close games. But does it not reach a point eventually where you go, okay, they are actually highly deficient in talent on this side of the field right now, outside of the secondary, which has taken a huge leap forward this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like a slow drip, like an IV drip of players just slowly going to injured reserve. So, it starts with Hutchinson and it's okay. We can paper over Hutchinson. Remarkable achievement that they were able to do that. I mean, up until like a couple of weeks ago, he was still leading the NFL in pressures despite not playing for like 6 weeks. And I mean, since then, you just continue to chip away at this. Like now Davenport's out. Now Kaminsky's out. You lost Anzalone in the last 2 weeks. Last game, they lost Malcolm Rodriguez at linebacker. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a key defensive depth piece at that position, is out now. So, I mean, they have some guys that are awesome still, but it's just like, now how much can you really get out of Zadarius Smith? How much can you get out of Aleem McNeil? Those are two pieces, but you're starting to chip away at some of the depth, which I think will be a problem in certain matchups against the elite offenses. They still have plenty of talent and a lot invested in this defense. I just mentioned 2 of those studs. And I mean, like, Brian Branch is still there. Jack Campbell's a really high draft pick who could maybe work into some extra snaps. Those teams they'll be able to beat up on teams like the Bears, but when the Packers are your opponent, I'm just not sure you have enough juice to stop them across the board. There are severe weaknesses that the Packers should be able to take advantage of.
Well, let's get into it, man. Happy to have you guys with us. Hey, if you haven't done so yet, take a single second, atone for your sins this fine Thursday morning as we kick off week 14. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It's free, 100% free, and we'll gladly refund your misery if you hate it. Just click unsubscribe. You never have to hear from us again. And leave a comment down below. Love reading. Matt may not read the comments, but I read the comments all the time, particularly on this show. We have a lot of fun doing it. And do you read the chat? You need to read the chat.
I read the chat when a lot of times when we're talking, I'm referencing stuff. Otherwise, I have the chat open. And yeah, man, I mean, I used to read the comments every single time, but it has just become a mental health exercise to not do it. I'm sure like 98, 99% of you are awesome, but for whatever reason, the 1% that's negative seems inclined to speak their mind. And it's just better for me if I don't do it.
All good, man. Anyway, let's have some
No,
fun with
that's
this
why
one.
it's explanation to the chat because I know some people feel like, oh, you do this. The least you could do is read the chat. I'm telling you why.
Well, chat loves you though. I will say that much.
At
Listen,
least someone does.
I've done shows with plenty of people in my many years, probably over a decade now of doing this. I've done shows with people where I've read the comments and I've gone, this poor fella. I hope he's not reading them right now. I've never, I've never had that with you. I mean, I'm telling you, I've had times where I go, oh, holy shit, they're just crushing this poor fella. Not here. We have fun. Anyway, you ready to get into it?
Yeah, man. It's a great game. Let's do it.
It sure is. I actually want to start with Josh Jacobs because like, if there's one spot to be exploit, maybe the way that this gets away from Green Bay is if like Detroit has long sustained, right, like clock eating drives and they're able to move the ball. I don't think Alexander's absence, it obviously hurts. I don't think it's massive because Jeff Hafley has been a DB's coach on like 46 different teams. I mentioned this in my betting video earlier. Like that's his bread and butter. But if if Green Bay can stay on the field, both of these teams play at two of the slowest paces in the league as well. I think they're just going to try and run it to Jacobs. Let me give you a couple numbers here because I was looking at his props today, Matt. You'll find this interesting. Um, so he's getting over the last 7 games, since week 8, 66% of the team rushing attempts, 75% of all running back rushing attempts. The first 7 weeks of the year, he was at 55 and 66% respectively. And then if you look at his goal line work and inside the 10, this guy on the season is second among all running backs in inside the 10 carries. He's second in goal line carries, only to Kyron Williams. And he's getting 95% of Packers opportunities, running back opportunities inside the 5. So like they just want to run him recently, and it's been effective.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for them to do that, especially in close games when things get away from the Packers or they draw a pretty solid lead. I think they'll lean into more of their backups, but they just don't really have competent runners behind Jacobs. I know Wilson's been fine. They've started to rotate some other guys in situationally, but Brooks, yeah. But I think like losing Marshawn Lloyd at the beginning of the year kind of removed their ability to really use a backfield by committee. They just don't have the horses to really do it. It'll happen when games are non-competitive, but when things are close and like this really competitive division game, I expect Jacobs to get as much work as possible. And I mean, these teams are very close in the division standings. Packers need this game for tiebreakers too. You know, right now, if the season ended today, or let's say a week from now, and they only had this one game played, the Lions hold the tiebreaker. Green Bay needs to get this game back so they're not just stone dead if they finish with the same record.
So if we're looking at ownership, if we run the Sims, how much Josh Jacobs are we getting right now, Jordan, on our first Sims run this morning? How much in the captain? Okay, so it appears that Jahmyr Gibbs is the go-to running back, Jordan, if I'm seeing that right, both at flex and captain, as far as what we're paying up for the most. Okay. What are your thoughts on that, Matt? Because it is hard to ever want to get away from Jahmyr Gibbs. The only difference between Gibbs and Josh Jacobs, well, there's two. Gibbs is more efficient. He's better in the passing game. His ability from a PPR standpoint is, not unmatched, but it's top 5 in the league. However, there is still a split backfield there. And Ben brought up a good point to me the other week where he was saying, if you look at the guys, the way that they split from week to week from snaps and everything, often it's because Detroit will just, if they have a long sustained drive, they'll let one running back have that drive. And then the next running back has the other drive. So sometimes like how sustained the drive will kind of dictate how much work a running back gets in that offense. the difference between him and Jacobs is Jacobs doesn't have a ton of competition.
Yeah, I guess price needs to be factored in here. You have to pay more for Jacobs than Gibbs. And the Lions are favored in this game, which makes sense. It's about 3.5 points. Lions have taken some money, so maybe it goes even north of that. But Jacobs just plays no matter what. And what I like about the Packers is you have these wide range of outcomes with the offense. They can be very pass heavy when they're trailing in games. We haven't seen a lot of that lately. And they played an incredibly difficult schedule. Coming into last week, they had the most difficult schedule in the NFL. But when they're winning games, they will just run the ball. We've seen them throw it 15 times in games, even less than that at times, some of that with Malik Willis. But they've kind of kept some of those similarities from the Malik Willis offense with Jordan Love back, and it's benefited Jacobs. I'm a little surprised the projection is not higher on Jacobs. We're kind of like right on the borderline where I'd consider boosting him just because there are outcomes where Jacobs handles 30 carries, and they're very different. Like the outliers for Jacobs can be much higher ceiling wise than the other backs on this slate without injury, of course.
Definitely. Where does Montgomery slot in for you?
Montgomery and Gibbs are always tricky because of the projection. I love playing them on main slates. This is kind of a different feel overall. He's so close to Gibbs where my first inclination is like, why would I not just find the 400 to get up to Gibbs? But I think they should be projected closely. They are. Montgomery's interesting from a leverage perspective, but another thing is like one, I thought he'd be cheaper. Two, I thought he'd be less owned. We're seeing like a combined 40-ish% ownership on Montgomery. I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah, me too. I guess, pricing is always going to play a role here. And when you've got Montgomery 86, Gibbs 9K, they're so close in price. How much, Jordan? I would assume that Montgomery for us is the odd man out here. And then I have a very specific reason for asking this. 2%. When we look at ownership, Matt, like how much more popular do you think Gibbs is at the same price of Montgomery today once this locks?
I think a fair amount. Honestly, I think it'll be wider than what we have. We have it 46% Gibbs, 40% Montgomery. Given the choice, I think a lot of people will just straight up 1-for-1 click Gibbs, which basically that's your decision.
So do I. They're $400 separated in this spot, which is pretty crazy, which is also, like you said, why we're getting more Gibbs than we are Josh Jacobs. Do you think there's an argument to be made there if, projection or ownership updates and you start seeing this gap widen a little bit, that Montgomery is a stronger pivot, or are they both owned enough to where it doesn't matter? Because I keep coming back to, I'm not going to really focus on whether or not I want Gibbs or Montgomery, but more so just how that build looks around these guys.
I think it would need to drop pretty considerably for me to be more interested in Montgomery. We'll see on this. I'm not sure. It's just hard to project him efficiency-wise when Gibbs is right there for $400 more. Like the projection is not going to really come close. Right now, you're sacrificing about 3 points, which is not made up for with that $400 gap. So, I mean, it's tough for me to click Montgomery. I mean, if you're playing 150, you're certainly going to be exposed to him, but just given one lineup, I'm finding the 400 for Gibbs right now. It's not even really a decision at the current ownerships. I'm surprised by it.
No, it's not at those current ownerships. It's not a decision at all. What I'm saying is my expectation is that gap widens as we get.
Oh, yes, I agree with that. But trying to do the mental exercise, which is great that we have the Sims. Like tonight, we do it right now for the content because it's fun. But like tonight, the Sims will answer it for us. What do you think the gap would have to be to considerably raise your Montgomery exposure?
I know. Okay, so
I think it would have to be at least like take 5% of that Montgomery and tack it onto Gibbs, if not more.
I was going to say 10 to 15, honestly.
Yeah, I think it might be that.
Like 5%.
A ton of Gibbs. Like just to cross-reference this with Gibbs, he's one of the most owned players in my current Sims runs, which are unencumbered, no adjustments made, very high in the flex. And the reason he's not higher is because he's the number one captain for me at 17%. But that's pretty low. I mean, there have been some slates like On FanDuel, when I ran this unencumbered for the Monday night game, I had like 55% Bo Nix. So this is pretty light, actually. It's very spread, and that just kind of speaks to the amount of studs we have on this slate.
Man, how about Jerry Judy the other night? That was insane.
How about Jameis, man?
Jameis,
Because Jerry Judy, like, he's not a talent elevator at quarterback. Some guys are. I mean, you like play with Justin Jefferson or something, you're going to look better. Jerry Judy has looked horrible his entire NFL career with pretty bad QBs, but he hasn't made them stand out. Jameis comes into the lineup and suddenly he's now fifth in the NFL in receiving.
I know. That's insane.
So I'm not giving Jerry Judy as much credit as I am Jameis Winston here, because Jerry Judy has looked like trash his whole career until Jameis comes in. Like let's give Jameis his flowers. Jerry Judy just out there wind sprinting.
Look, the Jameis experience was on full display on Monday. Full display. I love it. I wish he played every single week. There are a few quarterbacks more exciting to watch than Jameis. Like, he's the one guy where on a main slate you could play him and the defense he's going up against and feel good about it. So it's nuts. But yeah, another guy to talk about here, and we'll go through everything. Of course, tonight, live before lock, we'll break it down in a slightly different fashion, take your questions, and make sure to get you guys set. Plus, we'll have fully refined ownership and projections and all of that stuff when it matters most. I don't think we're going to have that many question marks as far as inactives go, though, because it seems like most of the guys who were question marks are out. Like, we already know Dobbs is out. We already know Decker's out on the O-line and everybody on that D-line for Detroit. So we'll see. Maybe there'll be surprises. I don't think there's going to be much. What do you make of Amon-Ra today? Because it's funny how this is shaping up for me. He is my 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh most exposed player, pretty much tied for 6 at flex, but my highest exposed captain in the same neighborhood as Jahmyr Gibbs and Jordan Love. I have no issues with that. I mean, St. Brown is fantastic. He is Goff's, if they're not running the ball, he is Goff's #1 target by far inside the 10-yard line. You could argue Laporta recently, but all season long it's been St. Brown. He's a target monster. He's fantastic. I never have any problem getting to, a good amount of St. Brown. I have 17% at captain right now. No intentions of changing that.
Yeah, I think he's a solid play. A lot of this largely just comes down to touchdown variance, like who scores your Detroit touchdowns. And I have a little bit of trouble with him at the expensive price tag because everyone's back healthy. A lot of the Amon-Ra eruption games have happened when someone's out. Laporta, something like, aside from week 2, where Amon-Ra had 19 targets, like his second most targeted game in week 11, Laporta was out. So for this to consolidate, you kind of need to remove someone from the offense. And I'm not sure right now we have anyone of consequence removed. I mean, like Khalif Raymond didn't play, but as you can see, like Khalif Raymond's not drawing targets anyway. Like his absence kind of doesn't matter. But with Amon-Ra, Jameis, Laporta, both running backs, I'm a little nervous at that price tag. I think I would rather find my way down to the Detroit running backs, maybe to Goff even. And I think a lot of ways you just win on this kind of slate where you have so many studs, and it's like with Detroit, it's almost like, all right, we're flipping coins on who scores touchdowns. I think you win more with like roster construction and ownership than anything else, like parsing these players.
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
I'm always gonna have interest in Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's just like, do I want 45% or 42? Or, like those are the decisions you have to make. Otherwise, I think you're just winning by like when Jared Goff's in your lineup, you probably want Amon-Ra, stuff like that.
So I don't disagree with anything you're saying. And someone in chat had mentioned that, volume of targets is one of the biggest issues there for
sure. I mean, they don't throw that much, and then now you have everyone healthy.
But here's one thing that is crazy. Where do you think St. Brown ranks among wide receivers this year in receptions?
7th.
3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised he's been healthy every game. And
well, what I'm saying is the efficiency of his targets is outrageous. Dude, do you know what his reception rate is this year? And honestly, it's not even unsustainable because he's always done this. He's caught 84% of targets. So all I'm saying, and I'm not even disagreeing with you because look, I would love the 11, 12 consistent target games for St. Brown with no Jamison Williams and, maybe a team that skews a little bit less to the run. All of that stuff would be fantastic. But it is incredible that this guy has 91 targets on the season, right? Which is 12th. He's third in receptions. And it just seems like every week, his 8 targets is different than the 12 targets for Devontae Adams. It's basically, like 8 targets for St. Brown is 7 or 8 receptions.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't disagree with that at all. I just think it's going to come down to touchdowns. Like,
Sure.
they're going to score 1,000,000 points in this game. If Amon-Ra doesn't score the touchdowns, he's probably not optimal at that price.
You're probably right. But yeah, true. But I mean, guys like Montgomery really need touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, there's 51 total. Whoever doesn't score a touchdown is dead, unless you're cheap.
You're probably right. Yeah.
They spread it around a lot too. So maybe that's not like we've seen the Lions put up 50 and then it's maybe you need 2 touchdowns. I mean, I don't know.
So,
but I mean, a lot of time this is a showdown slate. When you fail, I mean, Amon-Ra could have an awesome game at what is he, 10-8, 10-2? Forget off the top of my 10-2. He could have a solid, like if he's 8 receptions for like 89 scoreless yards. I don't think he's optimal.
With such a high total, sure.
And with Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, like the tight ends, Christian Watson,
Jamison Williams.
Jamison Williams, yeah. Forgot about him. I mean, there's so many awesome skill position players, you forget about them.
Jamison Williams is such a fun boom or bust player, though. Like this guy at 7K, this isn't like when we had to discuss, do we play Mike Williams? It's at 7K early in the year, right? Where it was just like, no, don't do it. Jamison Williams is at that price point where he could completely kill you. Like Jamison could finish with 4 tonight and you go, well, yeah, not shocked. Or he gives you the 4 for 100 and a touchdown game and, or the, 4 for 80 and a score. I'm always fascinated by Jamison Williams just because he's kind of in this odd price range where he could end up being optimal captain and I wouldn't be surprised by it. Or he could end up being the worst overall play on the slate by the time all the dust settles and everything's said and done.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 5 targets behind Amon-Ra St. Brown over the last 3 weeks. He's tied with him over the last 2. Routes are never a problem for Jamison. He's on the field every single play. His role is different. That catch rate certainly not as high for Jamison Williams with where he's running routes and winning downfield. But if you're going to give me 7 of those targets, I think he's a pretty decent play on the slate, especially with things consolidating. There's going to be volume on the ground, but as we get into the Detroit pass game where there's more players, everyone's healthy, I have more interest in just like the straight up cheaper guys. I understand why Amon-Ra projects better, but Jamison's a guy I could see boosting. Same thing with Laporta. He's only 2 targets behind Amon-Ra over the last 2 games. Amon-Ra's awesome. They just have so many awesome players on offense, especially the skill position players. It's hard to parse.
I have a tough time with Laporta, though. I mean, I think he's reasonably priced, but man, if you took those touchdowns away from him this season, it's a truly horrible year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been better. He has 6 targets in the last 3 games.
Yeah,
like a lot of that horrid play. Like let's look at this. Weeks 1 through 4, 5 targets, 3 targets, 2 targets, 4 targets. Week 6, 1 target. I mean, it's better lately, but yeah, I mean, you're always going to run that risk with Detroit. They just have so many guys. Like Laporta, if he had 1 target, you wouldn't be terribly surprised. I'm a little optimistic that it's been better of late. But yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot of good players on this team.
It just sucks, though, because, like, all right, he has 12 targets over his last 2 games and 25 total yards.
Yeah, I mean, he's not being used like where Jamison is. He's not, and he's like, look at him. He doesn't look anything like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's just catching the ball and falling down.
No, I totally understand that, but I mean, he's got he has an ADOT of 7 yards this year, whereas last year it was 7 yards, but he was just so much better. I don't know what it was. What's his yards after catch per reception? Last year, 4.13. This year,
0.
6.7. I know 0 sounds about right.
I knew it wasn't much higher than 0.
Yeah, well, the biggest difference actually, so he's not even being used differently in with the way the offense functions. It's just that he's on pace for so many less targets. Like he has 40 targets through 11 games this year. Last year in 17 games, mind you, he went down early in 2 of those. So it's really 16 games. He had 118 targets.
Yeah. Jameson Williams is better this year.
Yep. It is crazy though to see that much of a workload lifted from Sam Laporta. But I guess what you're saying here is that you're still, 6 targets in 3 straight, 4 of his last 5, and very much targeted in the end zone. That's a big thing for Laporta. Like if you're looking for silver linings here, if you're looking for reasons to play Laporta at that price point, just the fact alone that you've seen those type of end zone targets is probably enough to put him in play at that price point. It's just been a disappointing season.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't disagree with any of that. You need to decide between him and like similarly priced players. That's like Tucker Kraft and kickers and defenses. And I'll tell you, I'll certainly be bringing down kickers and defenses if they come up a lot today.
Defenses specifically for me.
Yeah, I just expect a lot of touchdowns, man. Like the total's 51.5. I would rather play Laporta than a kicker.
For sure.
I mean, he's like basically the same price as Jake Bates. Like I'm playing Laporta all day over Bates. Playing Kraft over Bates.
Yep. Oh God, yeah.
Well, I got more Bates than those two guys. Like I strongly disagree with that today.
Yeah, maybe it'll change. McManus is basically the
For
same
sure.
price as well.
And you get less McManus just because of the team total.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as like defense goes, this Lions defense isn't even Lions defense is not cheap. It's 4,600.
I think the Packers have no problem with this defense today. There's like 2 players, I guess 3 players I really like on this defense. Branch, McNeil, and Zadarius Smith. Everyone else, I think you could poke a hole in right now.
Let's talk about some of the other guys up top and then get into some value as we always do on this show. There's not a ton, but we may be able to scrounge something up. So look, I think first of all, he is expensive, but Josh Jacobs is going to be someone that ends up in a lot of lineups for sure. Do I have as much of him as I do, guys like Jahmyr Gibbs right now? No, Gibbs is $800 cheaper. That makes a big difference on this slate for sure. I mean, Jacobs is almost the same price as St. Brown. Looking at Jordan Love and Jared Goff, though. All right, so they are my 2nd and 3rd most exposed guys at the flex, and 3rd and 4th highest exposed at the captain spot today. I have a lot of both quarterbacks. How are you approaching the quarterback situation? Neither of them are crazy high priced, but again, Matt, I think if you're building out lineups by hand, maybe you're using the single lineup sim or something, or you just want to find some lineups that are a little bit unique. It would not shock me at all if a lineup without either quarterbacks ended up winning. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you should be doing with all your lineups. Far from it. But at the same time, these teams have the 3rd and 4th, essentially tied for 3rd. 3rd and 4th highest run play percentage in all of football this year. It's not insane to think that, and both of them can have these long methodical drives. Both of them play slow, right? 2 bottom 5 pace teams in the league. It's not actually insane to think that this game could have a good amount of scoring, and a lot of it is just done on the ground.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. And, like the more we talk about this game, the more I realize my read on it's not great because we have Love and Goff as the 2 highest owned players on the slate, albeit at mainly flexes driving that. I'm going to sort by captain. I think they're 4th and 5th overall. Yeah, we have Love at 5th and Goff at 7th. So, I mean, I'm surprised we're getting so much of these guys considering there's players that are lower owned. When these games like kind of get towards the tail range of outcomes, it's the running backs that benefit, not the quarterbacks. So again, I think you largely win with roster construction today. Like if you have Gibbs captain, you think the Lions have sort of this unbalanced run rate, it goes above expectation, then you probably want Love and some pass catchers in those lineups. But right now, I guess I'm just not understanding why there's so much Love and Goff coming in. I think I would largely come down on both of those and then let roster construction win out. But I don't know. This is just my take right now, seeing the current ownerships. They're the two most owned guys in the slate. I'm just a little surprised. Two pocket passers with elite run games and heavy run rates are this owned.
So am I. But I can tell you why though. So while I'm a little bit surprised by it, it doesn't take me totally off guard because when you have a total this high, I think usually, excuse me, oftentimes that's just going to happen naturally, right? Like if you look at passing yards on this, I haven't looked yet, but I assume both of them are relatively high. 253.5 for Goff, 250.5, 251.5 for Jordan Love. Those are still pretty decent passing numbers. Pass attempts for Goff, 32.5, 32.5 for Jordan Love. But again, that's interesting because so Jordan Love has, like, if you go look at his pass attempts in the games they've won this year, they're almost all under 30. But the likelihood is that this game's competitive or they play from behind 3.5-point dogs. 32.5 looks about right. I think he threw 34 in there, or 39 in this last game against Green Bay or against Detroit. But both have pretty decent pass attempt props. Both have pretty decent passing yards props. Total passing touchdowns right now. Jordan Love juiced to the over on 1.5, Matt. Jared Goff juiced to the over on 1.5. The crazy thing is if you look at all of these props today, they look like the exact same player outside of maybe a little bit more rushing yard for 5.5 rushing yards for Love, 2.5 for Goff. They basically have the same projection if you're using Vegas.
Yeah, they're not too different in our projections either. You have 17.99 for Love, 17.66 for Goff.
It's identical.
It's identical, yeah. The thing I'm like struggling to wrap my mind around, I understand everything that's being projected, is playing this into ownership. And there's a nasty range of outcomes on both of these guys. More than your average QB, like Stafford, his projection's pretty consistent. Like even Lamar, Josh Allen, maybe not Josh Allen because they will run the ball a lot. But a lot of quarterbacks, you just don't have this range of outcomes that you see with Love and Goff because of these two teams have a willingness to just run the ball 70% of the time if game script calls for it. Which is why the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I'm going to be very, very conscious of roster construction. And if you're playing like one lineup tonight, I would pick an angle, whatever angle you think is probably the most likely for this game, and play into that. Because like these two teams are so sensitive to game script.
Yeah. It's funny because Josh in chat said the books have no clue on this game, just mailing it in. I mean, like I don't think they're
I think
mailing it in.
I think there are some games they have better handles on, but they're never mailing it in.
It's exactly the way I was going to say it. They're clearly not mailing it in. However, it is still one of these spots where I think it could go a multitude of ways. Like I don't think there's like I don't have a good a grasp on this as I think I do on a lot of other games, Matt. I can say that much.
I agree. It's hard with all the injuries too. Like the Lions have a very suspect defense. The Packers aren't that much better, man. Like their pass rush has been awful this year. Awful. They're like 29th in pass rush win rate, which is insane because they've missed on so many draft picks. It's unbelievable. Who's the last draft pick they hit on? Jair on defense?
Pretty much. Yeah.
And they've invested so much into this. Like Van Ness gives them nothing. And the two Georgia guys they drafted, Devontae White, and the other one, I forget his name off the top of my head, it had been so bad, like they could barely play. Like they're getting Eric Stokes has been atrocious. Like the fact that they're this good and their best unit is coverage, which is amazing because like Jair can't play. He's hurt all the time. And they're like using paper mache over the rest of this defense. You have McKinney. And part of the reason they probably grade out so well is he keeps getting interceptions. He's awesome. But man, they are so talent deficient everywhere on defense because they've been horrible at evaluating prospects. It's unbelievable how little their first and second round draft picks are playing on defense and how poorly they are playing when they're on the field.
It is remarkable.
These guys suck.
They'd be so much better with a decent pass rush. It would change the complexion of this entire team because they have guys that can coach the corners really well. And even with injuries to the secondary, their secondary's held up well. You know what else is funny though? Like their run defense has improved dramatically this year compared to last year with Jeff Hafley at the helm and on defense.
Jeff Hafley is awesome. What he's getting out of this defense, like whatever they're paying him, it's not enough. He deserves a raise because man, I don't know what's going on. Like Van Ness can't get on the field over Kingsley Enikbare.
I don't know.
Van Ness played 22 snaps in their last game. He was drafted what 12th overall. Devontae Wyatt was a first round pick, 28 snaps.
Yep. Yeah. Why?
Like, my God.
Wyatt's yeah. Paul Newman, Matt said, Lions passing game's unpredictable. Goff can pass for 150 or 450. And then Lee Price said, yeah, 100%. I think we're responding to what we were talking about. We know what both teams want to do, but it just takes that big play to change the tempo. I don't think either of you guys are wrong at all. That's what makes this game tough because both of these offenses want to do a specific thing, but they can do a variety of things. Like they can open the passing game up. Jordan Love, if he's not dealing with smothering pressure, which is where he struggles the most, he does have weapons. He can pass. You know, Jaden Reed can bust things open. They have Jaden Reed's kind of that X factor where he goes for 30 total yards or he has 120 and 2 touchdowns with 60 on the ground and 60 through the air. That's what makes this game unique. That's why, like, I don't know about you, Matt. If I were somebody that was playing with a limited bankroll and I'm only playing like $20 a day, I'm not playing a $15 and a $5 single entry with 2 lineups. I'm throwing 20 lineups into the first down or something. You know, this is just one of those slates where if you're playing it, I think it doesn't matter your stakes. It doesn't matter your actual volume of money. I think this is the type of slate where you want to have exposure spread out and you want to be covering multiple bases.
I agree. If you're playing like the large field stuff and you're multi-entering, you definitely want to spread it out and win with your roster construction and win with ownership because there's so many good plays and there's good value plays to get there too. For the people, I guess, playing like one lineup or a couple lineups, I think my favorite angle right now is playing the Packers pass game. I'm not sure on Love if he would be the preferred captain in this situation because he's so owned right now. We'll see where this goes throughout the day. But we've seen, especially of late, like the Packers just really embrace the run because of their game script. Now they're projected to trail in this game. This could open up things for the pass game. So some of the early lineups I've built that I've been inclined to play more than others are like some combination of like one Lions player and then a Lions back and then 4 Packers balanced towards the pass game, Wicks, Reed, and maybe even like Kraft, something like that. They're not very expensive compared to the Lions guys. And I think you do have some angles here that make sense considering how run heavy the Packers have been of late because they've been winning. If they trail in this game, I like what the pass catchers provide.
Matt, we had a couple super chats as well. Shout out to the fellas. Appreciate you guys. Chris Albers just got here and had to step away from work to listen because priorities. You are my favorite type of viewer.
And too.
I'm telling you, every time we ask, like, what are you guys doing right now? How many of you guys are at work? I love reading that too because it opens up like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. One dude was like, I'm on a forklift right now, which is incredible. I atone. Thank you, sir. Yes, everybody atone. Hit that thumbs up. It goes a long way, and we appreciate you. He said, isn't Jacobs top of the league in broken tackles, yards after contact, and Detroit's D-line is banged up? All the Jacobs at captain. He's up there in all of those categories. I think he's like 3rd in missed tackles forced, top 10 in yards after contact per attempt. All of those things are great. And their D-line is banged up. Yeah, the only thing about jamming him at captain is the opportunity cost. Like, he is still very expensive. I like Jacobs today. I'm going to have a good amount. I'm not jamming him though, because Matt mentioned it like 20 times, and I think it's a great point. There's 1,000 different players in the mid-range and up top that could all have really big games. So I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I want to like put all my eggs in one basket with a single player. Do you feel the same way?
I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, Jacobs is having an awesome season. There's nothing against him. If that's the angle you want to play and you're playing one lineup, I would just play some Detroit pass catchers. Like Green Bay, if they're up in this game, Jacobs could have 27 carries. but then the Lions are going to be throwing. Like, I think it's more important to just be smart about how you're building. But if you have one of those inclinations, like by all means, like I'm never going to throw shade on Jacobs. He's an awesome player.
Awesome. And I want to get to him today. I think over 70.5 too. The prop looks good. I think they want to run him. Price Productions with a $20 super chat. Thank you, brother. He said, mailing it in. As always, thanks for the info. Yeah, man. And thank you for the support. Matt, I want to throw this question to you from Nate. So he said, help me out. I'm using the single lineup sim here. The only positive lineups I'm getting are 4-2 Detroit stacks with Jacobs and Wicks. I think he's basically saying, like, what am I missing here? Where am I going wrong?
So I would ask how many like different kinds of lineups you're building. Are you like locking in one player who might be under projected or something like that? Because there are definitely ways you can use like different roster constructions and different captains and players to go in and get positively leveraged lineups. I think it's just about like what you're doing and testing things over time. That's like the beauty of the lineup sim. You can test your ideas. So, and honestly, you could be building pretty decent lineup, but maybe they're too duplicated. Maybe they're too owned. So I would just keep at it and try out some different things. You've already gotten a couple positively sim ones. It sounds like you're not too far away. But as you can tell, like Wicks is an awesome play. And I forget the other one he mentioned. What was it?
Jacobs.
Montgomery? Jacobs. I mean, yeah, those are two awesome plays. Test a couple things around there, use them in the flex and the captain and see what comes out. This is what me and you do live on the show. And sometimes they're negatively leveraged and then we just go back and try again.
Yep. Fortunately, we've been better there. Also, I'm looking at this too on the Sims. So I like to run the Sims first, like if you have the core package or the max package, and see what type of, just, I guess you could call it cheating, but it also just puts me in a mindset of like, all right, this is kind of what I know, what grades out the best right now, what Sims the best. And I tell you what, Matt, I'm looking at it. I ran a 5,000 man field or 5,000 pool in the contest generator, 15% the first, and it's all across the board. Like I'm looking at my top 15 lineups. I have 3 of them that are Green Bay 5-1s. I have 4 of them that are Detroit 5-1s. I have like 3 or 4 that are 3-3s, and then a bunch of 4-2s on either side. So from what I'm seeing right now, some of the best lineups are pretty much everything.
Yeah, I mean, you can generally build like that. I like building 4-2s on one side, especially today when you're playing the game script angle, using like, I like using a rusher from one side and then more of the pass game on the other, filling it out with value in between. So I think either make lineups that make sense in any sort of construction you want. I prefer like the 4-2-5-1 angle today.
Yeah, I'm with you. And by the way, guys, there's 500 of you watching, which shout out to everybody. As always, thanks for spending your Thursday morning with us. If you ever wanted to get these tools, like the single lineup sim, Matt and I are going to build a lineup shortly. If you ever wanted to get the Sims, I mean, I use the Sims for literally every slate that I play, and I like to adjust things as well. Like sometimes Matt will go in there, I'll go in there. We will do a little bit of an ROI boost. We might set a cap on a player on a main slate where we think we're getting too much of them, and we just want to spread it out a little bit so you don't get buried by one player, or even adjusting projections. Or you can go in now and you can set uniques. So all of your lineups have a certain amount of unique players and you're not overlapping and competing with yourself in all of the lineups that you play. Simming all of these against the field. It's what the pros have been doing literally forever until we released this publicly and people got mad about it because it kind of democratizes DFS and makes it better for literally everybody. If you guys ever wanted to get these tools and just build better lineups, realize a significantly better profit at the end of every month and year, right? And really put yourself in a spot to compete, you can get them for free. You can get the core package for the month entirely free. This is the deal where Matt said that he told his buddies about it and they didn't believe he was being honest with them because it's so ridiculous. All you do, click the first link in the description, okay, where it says join any sportsbook, gets the Stokastic Sims free. Jordan can throw it in the chat as well. When you do that, follow those steps. Choose any of our sportsbook partners, or even if you're in a non-legal betting state, all of those pick'em sites that we have down there, they work as well. Click claim offer. Once you click claim offer, just sign up, make the minimum deposit, and place that deposit on any bet that you want. It could be a live bet. I say it all the time. It could be Pakistani cricket for all it matters. The moment that bet settles, not only are you getting all of the bonus bets from whatever book you sign up on, you just take a screenshot of your first settled bet, take a screenshot of the welcome email, okay, from whatever book, and email it to us at support@stokastic.com and let us know what sports you want. If you thought that was good, I'll do you one better. Many of you already know this because you've taken advantage of it. I've seen the inbox over at support. If you wanted to sign up on 4 of these books and not only collect the bonus bets and the match deposits, but also get the months of Stokastic, if you signed up on 4, that's 4 months of Stokastic Core. Each month is $100 value. So you're just piling everything on. You could run this all the way through the new year with NBA, NFL up until February. It's awesome. So the best way to get involved is click the claim offer on whatever you want. Follow those 4 simple steps. Hit us up over at support@stokastic.com and collect those free months. Use all of the tools that we have for all of these sports. And bet 365 today. Bet $25 on a parlay, even money odds or longer, and get 25 back if it loses. So a free $25 bet at bet 365. I have a 22-1 over there right now. So that should be fun. But check it out. If you ever have any questions, hit me up as always. All right. What else do we want to get to? Should we start talking about some of the cheap options here? I think that's the one spot we've missed so far.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So let's go. We got to start with Wicks, right? I mean, I think we got to start with Dontavian Wicks with Romeo Doubs out.
Yeah, I think he might be the best play on the slate.
Yeah, I think Wicks just pretty much everywhere stands out as somebody that makes a ton of sense. Tucker Kraft also at his price point, his volume is super, it's unpredictable, but they like using him in goal to go situations. They like using him in the red zone. As far as value goes, my 2 highest exposed guys are Tucker Kraft and Dontavian Wicks if we're including only skill players.
Absolutely. I think that's where they should be. There's
Matt,
not a lot of...
I might lose power because I just had flickers. I'm just letting you guys know now. I might lose power. Go ahead.
I'll go solo if that happens. I hope you
Yeah,
don't.
man. Yeah. Well, we got 40-mile-per-hour winds here right now. It's pretty crazy. And
they're pretty
snow
nasty
squalls.
here too. Not that bad. Jeez.
Okay.
Good thing
I'm
they're
just
not
letting you
playing.
know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a gap in projection. Let's say like guys under 5.4K where Kraft is, that it just doesn't make a lot of sense to play anyone else down here outside of the largest of fields. You can differentiate enough at the top and in the mid-range where it doesn't make a lot of sense to leave out both Wicks and Kraft. I think in most lineups, you probably want at least one of them.
Yeah. Yep. Danny said, Stokastic, what if you're already signed up with a sportsbook? Can I get it free? No, you got to use the link there with one of our partners. But there's like 10 or 11 of them. So I would assume that you're not on all 11 of them, I would think. Once you get past that though, do we have to consider the Bo Meltons of this world? Because Green Bay is at the very least, they're willing to run a bunch of guys out there, even if some of them are scarcely used. Like Bo Melton's going to play probably, what do you think, Matt? Like 25% of snaps today?
At the least, yeah. I think Bo Melton's going to play somewhere between like 25 and 35. We've seen him take like ceiling games for snaps too. We've seen him use in the playoffs. Like they like this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as the top 4, but they don't have any problem putting him on the field. I think he's interesting. Malik Heath is a deeper cut. I think Melton is ahead of Heath straight up, but I can tell you right now, if I don't get any of them in the Sims run, I will boost them both to end up with a small portion of them in my portfolio. They've been using a lot of 12 personnel, but game script has really, it's kind of been perfect for that sort of run out with Ben Sims. If they're down in this game, I would have to imagine that comes down.
Who would you say your favorite value outside of Wicks and Kraft is for Green Bay? Feel free to include guys like Chris Brooks or Emmanuel Wilson. Outside of Wicks and Melton, if you had to go somewhere, where would it be?
I think it's Bo Melton. With Brooks kind of being in the fold now, To me, that hurts Wilson. I mean, they're both kind of cannibalizing each other. It was better when there was just one of them involved earlier this season when it was Wilson. Now that there's two, it's hard to play either. Melton sort of has like a 20-ish, 25% snap floor, and I think there might be a ceiling for more. Heath, I'm not sure. He might be like a 2 snap guy. He might be a 17 snap guy. There is a little more volatility with him. So I prefer Melton straight up for all the value among all the value guys for Green Bay.
And then on the other side, we would be remiss to not mention Tim Patrick. There's very little that should excite you about this fella. However, he's going to be out there. Like Khalif Raymond missed last week. He's on the IR, I believe. Only played 14% of snaps the previous week, getting hurt. And Tim Patrick last week played 70% of snaps. 70% of snaps for Tim Patrick last week is nothing to overlook at all. And, you know, one of them was a deep target. He has receptions of 27 and 30 yards over the last 2 games. Is that sustainable? I don't know. I mean, the guy has what? Like 21 receptions on the season, and 6 or 7 of them are for 20 plus yards. So he's not dirt cheap, but he's not expensive. If you asked me, would I rather play Brock Wright or the Packers, who bookend him at his $3,400 price point? I mean, it's Tim Patrick all day for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually like Tim Patrick a decent amount. I think he's fine at 3,400. He's just tough because he's what, 6th in the target order on this team. But I think he's cheap enough where that doesn't matter a ton. If he gets 3 targets at 3,400, that might be enough in certain lineup constructions to make sense. I think when I'm playing him, it's going to be more of like a complete stars and scrubs build, probably including either a Wicks or a Kraft in the lineup along with him. I don't know if I want to play him at the expense of those guys and then just have all studs everywhere else in the lineup.
Makes sense to me. Do you have any interest? Like, do you think that Jared Goff needs to be tethered to Tim Patrick, or could he just be a flat out individual? Like, it doesn't matter.
I think at price, he could just be by himself.
Me too. Yeah, I think you can isolate that, no problem. Last question here before we build a lineup. Any additional thoughts on the backup running backs for Green Bay with Wilson and Brooks?
Not really. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that really you could parse to make one look like the better option over the other. Brooks has played more lately. Wilson played more early in the year. I guess sort of deferring to recent sample, I'd prefer Brooks because of that. But it's tough, man. I would not be surprised if it goes back to Wilson.
The biggest concern for me here is that, and I wouldn't be surprised either. I don't think there's any real clear pecking order week over week. The one thing that I don't like, and I mentioned it to you earlier in the show, Josh Jacobs is literally getting all of the goal line work. So if one of these guys were to get there, it's certainly not going to be, unless they decide to change things up from what they've done literally all season through the first 13 weeks, 12 games. It would have to be a long run against what is still probably above average run defense, even with the injuries. So with Brooks and Wilson, what is your out here? Like, what's the path to getting there? Is it a long catch and run? Is it a long just run? Because it's not going to be goal line opportunities. It's not going to be red zone opportunities.
I think that's why I'm probably not going to play either of these guys. I don't know. What do you think the chances are you need like a 1K-ish player? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think I would just rather find my way up to like the Tim Patrick constructions.
Me too. Or I would just go to Bo Melton.
Especially, exactly, because you're like, when you're stuck in Wilson at 2K, Brooks at 2.4K, I don't think you're far enough away from either of those price points where I really have a strong take between them and I really want to get to them. I'll find the $1,000 to get to Tim Patrick, or I'll sacrifice a little bit of salary, maybe leave it on the table to play a Melton or something.
I hear you, and I'm with you. Let's build a lineup.
Let's do it.
We'll use the single lineup sim here. It is the perfect blend of hand building and, the evolutionized version of DFS where you can't just hand build without any instant feedback. And that's exactly what we're giving you here. Build them out, figure what type of lineups work the best, get instant feedback when we sim this against the field. It's the best way to do it. at captain, we could go, myriad different ways here. Who do you want to start with?
Yeah, man, I was hoping you were going to pick. I don't have a strong lean on this. If you were going to make me play something, it was like a one lineup build. I would pick a Packers pass catcher. I don't know. Let's go like, who's the highest projected pass catcher value wise for us?
That's crazy. Because for me, the one guy that stands out is just can this guy have a massive game or can he ruin your slate? Jaden Reed.
Yeah, let's use him.
Yeah. We didn't talk about him much, but we did. Like, you know what you're getting with Jaden Reed, which is you don't know what you're getting with Jaden Reed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly talk on it. The Packers are basically going to use Wicks and Watson almost every snap. Reed's snap share is not going to quite be up there. Like maybe you have like a 75% snap ceiling, but his target per route rate is so much higher than those two players that he still projects better than them. I mean, they're all three of them are really talented. It's sort of like Detroit light, where one of them could easily have a good game at the expense of the other, since it's very hard to parse who it is.
I'm with you. I am with you, sir. All right, let's go Jaden Reed. And I think we just make this a Jordan Love lineup then.
Agreed.
Okay. So we're going to plug Love and Wicks in.
Love that.
Right? I mean, that just makes sense here. Gives us 8,300 per player. You're up.
Let's go Gibbs.
Okay.
I think you want at least one of them.
Absolutely. All right, let's go Gibbs. What if I throw Jacobs in here?
I have no problem with that. Actually, I saw a lot of lineups that had this in the Sims where, it's Packers dominant, but ideally the Packers are playing from ahead in this spot. If Reed scores a touchdown, Jacobs just gets the cleanup work as they're playing from ahead. I have no problem with that.
All right, this is interesting. So it puts us in the dead zone, but not really, because you have Laporta and Tucker Kraft down there. You could go Bates as well, which I don't think is insane. I think it would probably sim nicely. But so you could go Laporta, which gives you Laporta and Gibbs with no Goff, no Amon-Ra, no Jameson. Fine with that. Or you could go Kraft and just make it the mega Green Bay onslaught 5-1 type of game spot.
I think I'd prefer Laporta 1-to-1 to Kraft, but I would have no issues if that's the other route.
Jordan, Jordan, don't run this yet. Make sure we're at large field and do 15% to first. So what we're going to do, Matt, instead of building out all different lineups, let's run this with Laporta, then run it with Kraft, then run it with Bates, and see what the Sims is giving us as right now the best type of construction.
We have Laporta with the highest overall projection among that group.
Okay. But as we know, the type of build is always...
All right, sure, so Jordan, that's what the Sim is great for this.
Otherwise, I would struggle much more on showdown slates. Now go to Tucker Kraft. Let's see what a 5-1 looks like here with Reed at captain. So look at that. That one difference to the 5-1, Matt, because it's such a unique build, gets us from 29 to 66%.
Yeah, I mean, and we just said Kraft projects a little worse.
Yep. On a main slate, a lot of that goes out the window. Like the construction goes out the window because, Jordan, go to Bates. Because it's such a big slate, but on this, it's all about the way you're actually putting the lineup together in full and how much different and how fewer dupes you're going to get in a spot like this.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference.
So look at that. The 5-1 actually looked the best. One more before we go. I just want to try a 5-1 Detroit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go Gibbs at captain for this one, since we know that the Sims really like him today. And I like Gibbs a lot.
Okay, so we're going 5-1 Detroit. We probably got to play Goff.
We definitely had to play Goff. What do you think the one Green Bay play is? Is it a pass catcher or what do you think?
I mean, I think you got to put Wicks in for value.
I agree. Not to mention, while I don't think it's crazy to have Jacobs as the guy, If it's a 5-1, you're playing with the narrative that Green Bay's playing with a big lead.
Yes.
Or
we're doing it.
Go ahead.
We're doing Detroit trailing, Green Bay playing from a lead.
No, I'm saying we're going 5-1 Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm saying, I just thought about it. That's not true. It could be competitive. Green Bay could spread it around a lot, or Jacobs could have 2 big runs early and Green Bay and Detroit needs to throw. So the 5-1 build could go a bunch of different ways. All right. Let's see if I can do it with St. Brown here.
All right. So we have Gibbs, Goff, St. Brown, Wicks.
Yep. 62.50 remaining per player.
Yeah, I don't think we're in too bad of a spot overall. I mean, we're doing a 5-1. We got to probably play a cheap Detroit guy. Want to play Tim Patrick?
Try it. Yeah, I like that. If you go Tim Patrick there, wow. Okay. Then you can still go. What does it look like with Montgomery?
Well, I kind of like it.
Try it. $22.
That's not bad.
Not bad. Jordan, one more thing. Clear out the last 2 players and plug in Jamison Williams and Jake Bates. By the way, we'd be $100 off from Jamison and Laporta, Matt. I think this will sim well, though.
Me too.
90. So to answer the question from Nate earlier, Matt, we just ran multiple 5-1s and got good results. So it's really just about the way you're structuring these lineups and understanding how, positively simmed lineups work.
Yeah, I mean, the days of just like running the optimals and projections are gone. This is a great way to give yourself instant feedback on your ideas. And it's helping you with dupes, with ownership, roster construction. It's helping you with all that.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski over on X. Follow me at Laffy_D. Check out all our stuff over on OddShopper too, man. If you haven't done so yet. I got a video that just popped out for today's games. Matt's doing college stuff all the time. And as always, you ever want to get on OddShopper, Portfolio EV, and just start making money? I had a nice $1,100 profit yesterday. 41-24 using straight OddShopper Portfolio EV plays. Just betting just betting anything with the positive green historical ROI using the mass entry tool. Took me 20 minutes out of my day, $1,100 profit. We're off to a good start in December after a shaky end to November. We'll take it, man. Check it out. Link down there. 70% off. This is over tomorrow. So if you've been on the fence, it's over tomorrow. Cyber Week is the promo to use at checkout. 70% off your first month. That means you're getting your first month for $30. Even if you're starting with a $100 bankroll. Doesn't matter. Greg turned his bankroll into, what is it, 600 now since the start of the NBA season? Started with $100. Just truly awesome stuff, man. It's changing the way we bet. And the books aren't going to allow this forever. So let's get in while the getting is good. I certainly know I am. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you back here tonight with Greg, live before lock, heading into Thursday Night Football. Appreciate you guys. Peace.